In Stephen Totillo's GameFile interview of Hyungjun Kim, also known as Kjun, we gain insight on the man behind inZOI. When asked what would prompt someone whose lifelong background in games that encompasses MMOs and RPGs to suddenly venture outside of that, Kjun answered with a personal, introspective response. He mentioned his son and how his relationship with him was brought closer when they played The Sims. Totillo's article details Kjun's response. "It's been a while, and my son is taller than me, way taller than me," Kim said. "I guess he remembered how we used to play The Sims together. He asked me if there are any Sims-like games. And it occurred to me, there are no other games that are life sims in the world. So I started creating. I created this game." inZOI is undoubtedly one of the most anticipated games of this year. Right now it sits fourth on the most wishlisted games on Steam, after the influencer build of the game that was released in 2024, alongside the character studio demo that would follow. There's tons of anticipation leading up to its early access release, and many are eager to get their hands on it and or stream it on GeForce Now. Whether you're a fan of life sims or not, inZOI entering the genre changes everything. Its innovative, modern, and gameplay-driven approach, even this early in its development, drastically shapes our expectations for future life sim games. inZOI breaks the mold by dragging the genre into today's standard of gaming, and presents us with a simple question. Can a game focus on a single-player experience, an open world, strong community-made driven content, today's graphic fidelity, and real-time simulation, can all of that find success in the here and now? The question is, why does Kjun think this is possible, and what experience in game development has he had to encourage him to be that ambitious? The Sims series has monopolized the genre for decades, and the brutal truth is, if you go after the queen, you best not miss. And if you want to challenge the status quo or rule as a queen yourself, I'd recommend Crusader Kings 3, a life simulation game set in the medieval era that you can get now at Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming offers discounts on PC and console games, with new deals happening all the time. When you use my affiliate link to buy games, you'll be supporting what I do here on the channel. Also, Instant Gaming has provided our community with a giveaway in which you can win a game of your choice. You can find the links to all of this in the description or pinned in the comments below. A warm thank you to Instant Gaming for partnering with my channel. Truthfully, I found it difficult to find as much concrete information about Kjun's development history. Interviews seem to be the best place to find some things, but for the most part, a lot of it was trying to connect the dots. Here's what I found. He's had over 20 plus years of experience in working and developing games that are MMOs and RPGs. He worked on an MMORPG called Aeon. Here's a post where someone on Reddit shared one of his illustrations. For the unaware, Aeon is a classic MMORPG released in Korea in 2008 and more broadly in 2009. It's a free-to-play game that focuses on PvP and PvE, and is also known well for its aerial combat. But perhaps the most influential game that would later lead to Kjun's departure from the MMORPG sphere would be a game called Aeon. At the time of Aeon's development, Kjun was listed as the executive producer of Bluehole, the studio behind the game. Here in this Reddit post, he's featured as one of the main persons for this Ask Me Anything. To put it bluntly, Aeon was a catastrophic failure, so much so it doesn't exist anymore. It was an MMORPG contending with the likes of Amazon Studios' New World. Like New World, the game focused on PvP and had a dynamic combat system. However, it suffered from a variety of issues upon release, one of which was reputation. The game was free to play, which the phrase itself lends thoughts of predatory monetary practices. That said, its release to North America and Europe would see some of those practices to be less egregious. However, that did not stop a depleting player base. Their various reasons for leaving spanned from a too competitive of an MMORPG landscape, RNG-based upgrade gear system, grindy gameplay that's just not as fun as the competition, dated graphics using Unreal Engine 3, and many comparing the look and feel of the game being something out of 2015. The game released in Korea in 2020 and North America and Europe in 2021. However, Aeon would be discontinued completely by April 27th, 2023. You can imagine just how deflating that would be for any developer. There is an ebb and flow to Kjun's game development journey, and he doesn't shy away from it. He uses that as a reason to try something new, and to be more daring. Kjun would go on to say in that same GameFile interview, "I have 24 years of game development under my belt, and I've been working on MMORPGs for the longest time." Kim, now 50, told GameFile, "I got sick of it." He would go on to add, "I've made more games even outside of that," he said. "Most games were not successful." So then what motivated him to continue? Kjun, having come from that debacle, left him with little choice but to reevaluate what he wanted to do next in his life, and that decision, including the inspirational moment he had with his son, would lead him to do what many would consider foolhardy. and that choice was to create a life sim game. And not just at a micro scale, in which these games are so often humbly pitched, but rather backed by Krafton, a company with the funding and resources to invest heavily in the project. That dynamic of expertise, funding, and daring attitude would be enough to launch the project forward. In this video interview, we learned so much about Kjun's journey. This interview is a sort of tell-all about his feelings that led him to develop inZOI. The video itself is called Exclusive Interview with Kjun, the producer of inZOI, by this YouTube channel. And if Google Translate is to be believed, it translates to middle-aged gamer Kim Sil-jong, which is an amazing channel name, I gotta say. In this interview, he shares what led him here. He would also go on to mention how he's a struggling game developer. In his disappointment, he realized moving forward, he wanted to work on projects that he was passionate about, and MMOs were not it. In that reflection, he wondered how he could apply his game knowledge to a new project. He came to the conclusion that perhaps developing a life sim was his true calling. He says, "I realized that it was the games I was playing with my son, that I learned how to appreciate those simple moments and just watching characters live out their lives. That's when I knew I had to create my own version of this." Now, when I met my former colleagues, I told them, let's try and make a different genre of game. I learned that taking all this gained knowledge and experience, you can utilize them in other genres as well. So while the life sim genre may appear outside his wheelhouse, he was able to bridge that divide with his prior knowledge of RPG systems. And this is where the desire to create well-meaning gameplay into a life sim game comes into, excuse the pun, play. The original pitch Will Wright made about The Sims was that of a dollhouse. It was a fascination to him how people could interact with the world around them, and you can control some of those outcomes. Eventually the game would evolve to include content and features that greatly expanded upon this. The Sims would see the development of active careers, cars, seasons, pets, and an open world, and much more would make its way into the series. When we think about how a sim can live out their lives and outgrow their humble beginnings through achievements and progression with acquired skills and money and all of that, is that not akin to the baser features of any RPG? When truncating those concepts to what Kjun knows, he's able to approach the life sim genre in the best way he knows how. He says, The Sims 3 was created in a seamless open world, but when they released The Sims 4, they changed it to zone-based, which I was really sad about. But for 20 years, all we've been doing is creating playable open worlds. We grew grass, made rivers flow, and raised up mountains, and I was thinking we can make this here too. I told my team, let's try making a city. And they did that with unbelievable speed, leaning on their strengths of character creation, world building, and creating simulated open worlds, and making NPCs with unique storylines. All their previous experiences gave them the insight they needed to come up with a working build of the game quickly. He would go on to say that one of his biggest challenges was getting his playable build to the right audience. He would later propose to send copies to influencers, and many of those influencers would believe the game a scam, impossible, and simply not real. For the few who agreed and gave their opinions, that would be the needed fuel to help propel Kjun's project further. The interviewer would later ask why would Krafton back such a project. Kjun speaks highly of the company and states that they're quite open to new challenges. On a tight schedule, Kjun and his team were able to put together a proof of concept. What worried them at this stage was how to present the idea. Kjun mentions that even when thinking about inZOI, and how it can become a unique addition to the life sim genre, it would be difficult not to admit that it is in direct competition against The Sims. He says, with inZOI, it's competing for a spot in the life simulation genre, which is currently dominated by The Sims, holding 97.3% of the entire market. I searched far and wide for any real competitors that were in this space, but it was about 4 games that even had the slightest market share. So it is indeed a monopoly. Yet he remains hopeful in inZOI's future. He dares to think that perhaps maybe there's a gap in which inZOI can have success, that if they approached building inZOI in the right way and create something The Sims 4 may lack, they can have sustained success, he says. The latest iteration of The Sims 4 was released in 2014, but with constant additions of DLCs, user mods, and CCs. The package as a whole is still really powerful. When we think of The Sims as a competitor, we're not competing with the vanilla version. It's the whole package that is reinforced with all these amazing additions. But regardless, The Sims 4 is an old game, and I felt that we could utilize new technologies to create a different experience that will hopefully appeal to the players. He bets that there's an audience that wants a modern take on life simming, just as long as the gameplay is good enough. In his commitment for the game to be different, he also states that they're taking a more communal approach, and that's their strength, meaning they're open to communication and transparency. He readily admits to lacking knowledge outside of the South Korean gaming industry, and he has reached out to many people for feedback. And perhaps it is in that humility are we starting to see a game come to light that better resembles the community that he bet from the start may make up inZOI's desired target audience. In part 2 of the video interview called "Can inZOI Stop the 97.5% Monopoly of The Sims" by the same YouTube channel, the interviewer asks that while a game can have incredible customization and feature-rich content, wouldn't that leave the doors open for heavy monetization? He points to The Sims 4 as a primary example and how they do their best to monetize wherever they can. Kjun responds, "Absolutely not. As I mentioned previously, we're sort of rushing to release this game as early access by the end of this year, with the goal of further developing this game with our players. When I played The Sims for over 10 years, I realized that my biggest motivator for coming back to play was the new content that gets uploaded to the gallery. So while I could sell every one of these components since, as you know, game developers do need to make money, I think there's greater value in creating this positive cycle where users can freely create content, providing that same motivator for other players to come back and play." So just who is the man in the mirror? No, I'm kidding. The man behind inZOI, I guess you could say, is an underdog. It's a story of making a crucial pivot in one's life after project failures. A story of banking a game's future on his inspirational moments he had with his son. Much rides on the success of this game. The live sim space is begging for a new contender to reinvigorate a genre long dominated by the Sims series and, more presently, The Sims 4. It is a genre that has seen so much stagnation, rampant DLC manipulation, game cancellations like Life by You, and small-scale projects on the rise like Paralives, yet nothing of the scale as inZOI has truly made its way in, and should Kjun's vision for inZOI truly be recognized, that could perhaps pave new roads for others to follow. We will know more about inZOI as it's scheduled to release on early access on March 28th or 27th, depending on your time zone. And time will ultimately decide what's written next in this underdog story. Either way, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate you, and I hope to see you in the next video, whatever the next video may be. So until then, I will see you then. Bye for now. Hey folks, I just wanted to give a gentle reminder that articles and videos and general sources that help inform my opinion, all of that will be provided in the description. Please be sure to check them out. I really do believe that this game is going to have a substantial impact in the gaming industry, so you might as well get caught up on the lore. Also, partnering with Instant Gaming, that's absolute insanity, and that is all because of you. You did this. Are you proud of yourself? No, I'm kidding. But seriously, I can't thank you enough for just being here and supporting the channel and even having that moment happen. That's wild to me. I still can't fathom how I even have a partnership. It's wild. Anyways, even if you're not looking to buy games, do check out the giveaway link. You might as well enter it to try to get something free out of it, you know? But should you decide you're looking for a game at a discount, please do feel free to use my affiliate link, which is a weird thing to say, I know. Oh god, I've turned into that. I'm that now. You can't blame me for this. You did this. Okay, this is your fault. Next time, unsub and dislike, huh? Anyways, I love you all. Bye for now.